Still?
Hey, y'all, we are back for another live. And today we have special guest, Irving Shirley, and he is here to talk about jigs, and more jigs.
A lot of jigs. A lot of jigs.
And as you can see by the spread on the table, we have plenty to talk about.
Yes.
A little bit of back history on Irving. He's part of the club. When did you join the club? About what year?
It had to be around 92, 93.
So about 30 years ago? Yeah, it would be 30 years ago.
A little over 30 years
Somewhere
ago.
around there.
Yeah.
That's it's been a minute. You've been president of the club at some of the times.
Twice.
Yeah. So been around. Have you fished big tournaments or anything like that?
A few. Used to fish Future Pro with Bob Finster. Yeah. Then just did that BAM Pro-Am as a amateur.
Co-side. Or AM side.
Co-angler, yeah.
How was that?
It was interesting, you know.
Was that one last year when it snowed?
Yes. A couple times.
Sounds horrible.
Shasta and Clear Lake. Yeah. Yeah. After fishing a couple of those, I realized I needed to be in the front of the boat.
Yeah.
So,
It's hard to be in the back of the boat.
yeah. After fishing so long, it was tough to be in the back.
Yeah, when you spend enough years in the front, it's definitely harder to.
Yeah. A little frustrating at times, but luckily for me, I got some good co-anglers, or some good pros.
Yeah.
So I did learn quite a bit. But like I said, it was kind of hurt my pride. Having to fish out of the back of the boat. But,
Big John says, "What's going on?"
Hey, Big John. Big John.
That was Big John.
What's your biggest bass?
I got 2 8.5s 2 weeks apart. My biggest bass on the jig was just over 8.
What'd you catch the 2 8.5s on?
Punching in the Delta. 2 weeks before that, I was fishing a rock pile out in front of the Clear Lake, and saw it on my graph, dropped straight down. So I was a catfish. After about 10 minutes, I finally got it to about 10 feet from the boat, and then it decided to shoot off to the right and come to the surface. You know, didn't have my net out, didn't have any. I was by myself.
Yeah, you're thinking it's a catfish.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about it.
I was almost starting to winch it in. Then it saw the boat and it took off. So that was a fire drill.
What was the biggest bass caught on your boat?
Probably buddies.
Buds. 1311 at Berryessa.
That's a good fish.
That's a good fish.
That was a deep bed fish, right?
No, not really. We were
No?
we were probably in 20 feet of water. The water was crystal clear, and we had been catching a lot of smallmouth that were spawning off of beds. And we, I just pitched up a little bit shallower and caught a 4-pounder, and that monster came with it and just followed it to the boat. So I just held my fish out there, screaming at Bud to get a Cinco out there, and he finally did. But then the fish went back to its bed, and then we spent probably a little over an hour trying to get that fish to go, only because he couldn't get that bait just perfect. He wasn't used to bed fishing and pitching a Cinco, and when he finally put it right in front of her face, she inhaled it.
I do remember you. I was on the water that day.
Yeah. Well, we ran around getting one more check other people's scales to make sure that mine was pretty correct. Yeah, 1311, beautiful fish.
Tank, absolute tank.
Yeah,
it's what Berryessa can do.
Yeah.
That should be coming here.
Just a week earlier in the same area, another guy caught one that was probably 14 pounds. Yeah, he had me take a picture of it for him and
I wish
send it to him because his phone was dead.
And you're man, I'd really like to see one of those in real life.
Yeah, and that was out there at the. I'll tell you where that was at the vineyard. Out there where the vineyard is, the old vineyard.
Yeah.
You know Berryessa, the vineyard.
Yeah,
go to the vineyard.
What's going on, Crappie Closet? Marlon stepped in, said hi.
Hey, Marlon, how you doing? Good.
All right, so let's get started in on this. What do we have here? What are we looking
Where do
at?
you want to start?
Where do you want to start?
So the reason why we got Irving on here is because he's good at jig fishing and he consistently catches fish on jigs.
I love jigs.
If you were to pull anybody out of the club that would be jig would be their thing, I'm pretty sure it'd be Irving.
Yeah.
And I don't even know who second place would be.
Yeah, I love jigs. Unfortunate thing about me and jig fishing is that's how I want to catch them all the time. And a lot of times that just doesn't happen. When they're schooling on crappie, they're not looking for crawdads. So
yeah,
when you start catching fish and they got that red upper lip, they're rooting around the rocks for crawdads. So that's when you need to start fishing for using jigs. So, well, first thing I want to talk about is containers. I buy these Plano containers. They got the little snaps on the side. They got a rubber gasket inside. If I'm fishing in the rain and I'm opening this and closing this quite a bit, when I get home, I open it back up and dry it out, let it air out.
and that's the 3600. I think it is the smaller one.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3600.
This is a 3640-1. It's got the locks on the sides, got the rubber gasket in it. I've been strictly buying those lately. These are the old what are these?
4700.
3700s. Yeah.
Yeah, 3700 or 4700 or something like that.
This is a box of pitching jigs. I don't do much pitching anymore. I strictly fish football jigs now or the jig rig. I'm really getting, especially if I'm fishing real rocky terrain, I like that jig rig. It doesn't get hung up as much.
Cross through.
Yeah.
And then you're just going for that, just for simply corrosion protection, basically.
Yes.
Just to keep your hooks not
It
rusty.
works great. I have less rust problems with these than I had with the other ones that would just constantly let moisture in.
Yeah.
So, rods. Let me see if I get my rod out here.
It's a pretty rod, by the way.
This is I built this out of a Phoenix blank. It's a 7.3. That is my go-to rod for jigs. I started out with a 7-foot 5-tower Lamiglass.
And for those to see on the rod tip, you can see it shuts off pretty quick.
Yeah. It's
a
fast.
You have a
action,
bend to about right here, and then it goes solid after that.
Then it loads right up. But I like that. I like the action on the tip, so that when you do get that fish to pick up the bait, he won't feel you as quick. So it gives you a little bit more time to set the hook. And on the hook set, depending on how deep I'm fishing, sometimes I'll set that hook 2-3 times. Especially if I'm fishing deep, I'll go 3 times on that hook set to make sure I bury it. So,
and what line are you using?
yeah. I'm using. I like the P-line 100% fluorocarbon. It's to me it's a lot cheaper some of that fancy stuff, and I'm running 12 to 15. If I'm fishing Clear Lake, normally I'm running 15. The Highland reservoirs like Berryessa, 12. I have fished lighter. I was fishing a club tournament with Bob Finster, and the bite shut off for us a couple days before the tournament, and we realized that the water had cleared up immensely. It was like you could see down almost 8 feet. So we went to 8-pound test, throwing 3 8-ounce jigs, went right back to smacking them. So
it's getting a little line size-wise.
It depends on the water clarity. I have some tungsten jigs in here that I use that are 3 8-ounce, real small head on them. But I only use those for if I'm fishing real deep, 20, 30, 40 feet of water in really clear lakes. Then I'll downsize a 10-pound test.
It's just to get like a smaller profile, but still have that.
Yes, I want that for those for spots, smallmouth. I want the smaller profile, so I go to the tungsten jigs. But they're expensive, so
yeah. Yeah, you don't need to use them 24/7.
No, not in practice. Not in practice.
No.
So, and that's the reason I bought this big box of jigs here. Is that when I first got into jig fishing, that's how I caught my first bass. You know, strictly trout and steelhead fisherman for forever. And then a buddy talked me into fishing the Clear Lake Chamber of Commerce tournament.
Oh, okay.
Shoot, 30 years ago. And I caught my first fish on it was actually a pitching jig, but I was fishing it like a football jig. And when
Catching them on a jig in Clear Lake. Yeah, I can see why you could get addicted to that
Yeah.
really quick.
Yeah.
when I felt that thump and I reeled down and felt that weight and set the hook, I was hooked. I didn't do a lick of any other fishing. I went strictly bass fishing and jig fishing.
That
So-
thump can be so strong sometimes. That just like someone smacked the end of your rod.
Yeah. Jig fishing, it takes a lot of patience. People don't understand that. To me, you have to creep that jig real slow, just like a crawdad crawling on the bottom. And if you've seen documentaries or shows on TV where they're showing lobsters or crawdads on the bottom, they're not shooting across the bottom. They're just inching along the bottom. So I fish that thing real slow, and it seems to work for me. Now in the springtime, after the spawn, there's a thing called stroking where you throw it out there, reel a little bit, and then snap it. And that snapping is like them trying to get away from something. A lot of times that'll trigger fish that are following that bait. But
You gotta wait for the water to warm up a little bit, basically.
yes, yeah, after the usually right after the spawn, when they move back out in deeper water, that works real good.
So I'm noticing in this box, you have a bunch of football heads. There's no skirts. There's no nothing on them,
It's just a
but they're brown, right? They're not like
Yeah.
your regular.
And what I used to do, I still do, is I used to buy or still buy jigs in bulk and powder coat them myself. Little propane torch, heat up the lead. I don't suggest you do this in the house with the wife's stove, because if that lead accidentally melts onto her stove, you'll never hear the end of it. So I got a little propane burner, and I just heat them up and dip them. And once you start doing it enough times, you'll realize
you heat the lead, dip it in the
I heat the lead up, and then I just
powder.
and I dip it in the powder, pull it out, and then I set it on I usually have a board out in front of me, or a 2x4. I just hang them on there, and then after they cool down, I gather them all up, put them in a pan, take them and put them in the oven, cook them at 350 for about 30 minutes, and it
Bakes them finally.
bakes it on there, and it lasts a lot longer. I found that doing that versus just dipping them and then fishing them, the brown coating would come off, the powder coat would come off a lot easier. But if I baked them for half an hour to an hour, they lasted a lot longer.
So do you think there's a difference in putting the brown coating on it compared to
No.
not doing anything?
No, because it's just a preference to me. This jig right here, all the powder coat's worn off it, it still catches fish. Still catches fish.
So it's just like a confidence thing for you.
For
that
me,
you
it's a
don't have to-
confidence thing. Yeah, I like the brown jigs. I do have them in green, but because I throw it's a 221 Yamamoto bait.
Mop top.
Yeah, I think it's cinnamon with
Cinnamon purple or cinnamon blue?
purple and purple flake, purple and black flake. Yeah, the number's 221. That's my favorite. Now with the jigs that don't have a weed guard, that's the ones I use for practice, because you're going to end up going through a lot of jigs, and I don't want to burn up all my good jigs pre-fishing.
Is there a special hook bend or anything like that you prefer over the rest of them?
Yes. What do you call this?
The O'Shaughnessy one?
O'Shaughnessy's.
Here, there's one right here.
Yeah.
So the hook bend was a round bend. So if you guys see here, this is a round bend, right? So you can see it's flat, and then it just hooks to a round. It's straight all the way to the head. This is a Shaughnessy or Shaughnessy. There's a couple different ways to pronounce it. If you'll see, the bend itself actually happens throughout the shaft, and then it comes out to a more than 9 or less than 90, like almost like a 45 angle at the end.
Yeah, those are my what I save for my tournaments. These are what I use for tournaments
Why do you save those ones for your tournaments?
because I wouldn't say they're expensive, but
Discontinued.
they're discontinued. Booyah Jigs used to make these.
And you were saying earlier that
They don't make them anymore. So if you find these, buy them.
you're saying earlier though that hook style is you could set the hook soft, you could set it
Yeah.
hard, no matter which way you swing it.
It's almost like a circle hook. It's going to catch either in the top of the mouth or right there in the side of the mouth. And a lot of times, all you got to do is reel down on them and it apply the pressure, and they'll hook themselves.
Yeah, and
Where at the straight bid ones, you've got to set the hook on those.
yeah, and it's once they're stuck on that O'Shaughnessy, it's a lot harder for them to throw that bait.
Yeah, I don't
than
lose
the round bend.
I don't lose nearly as many fish with these as I do the other ones with the O'Shaughnessy. Yeah.
All right. You have a question on here. What's your swim jig and trailer for the Delta? Do you throw swim jigs?
I do. I like Dirty Jigs. They make a good swim jig. There's a few others out there. If I want to fish the Delta,
You throw the heavy duty swim jig from Dirty Jigs, or
In the
just
Delta?
the regular one.
in the Delta, I throw the heavy duty one.
Yeah.
Because you never know what you're going to hook out there. Same thing with Clear Lake. If I'm throwing a swim jig, I'm going with the heavy duty hook. Red Craw, you cannot go wrong with that one. Did I have one here? Orange and red and brown.
This isn't a swim jig.
That's not
per
a swim
se,
jig, but
but
that's
the coloring.
That's the color.
The color.
The coloring is what he's talking
that
about.
actually there is my Clear Lake, my favorite Clear Lake bait. It's got I think the trailer is it's a Beaver 420 with Bloody Mary, and this is a Revenge football head. They do not make these anymore, unfortunately. So when I found out they were going out of business, I bought as many as I could. So if you find these in the tackle shop, snatch those up. 3/8 ounce football head, can't go wrong. Swim jigs, green pumpkin or red craw.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. One thing that I found out years ago is that I have some 1 ounce jigs in here. And what I do with those is I fish vertical with these. I drop it. If I'm down 20, I'm seeing fish at 20, 30, 40, 50 feet of water. I'll drop this straight down and then I'll just pick the rod up, set it down. As I got the trolling motor on the lowest speed.
Off the bottom, just like
Slightly pick it up, set it down. Pick it up, set it down. I'm only picking it up maybe that much. Pick it up, set it down. And I'm just moving the boat at the same depth as I'm seeing fish.
so almost like you're fishing for
lingcod.
lingcod,
Almost like Lincoln, yeah.
or halibut or something like that.
That's why I have these 1 ounce jigs in here. They
Can't
work
say
really
I've-
good.
Can't say I've heard that tactic before.
Now with the jigs without a skirt, I'm using a 221 Yamamoto Spider Grub.
Are those the ones I like?
Spider grub would be your
Oh yeah, that's what I
yeah.
like. The
Got
mop
the-
top.
Mop top,
spider grub,
got the tail.
twin-tailed skirted grub. There's a bunch of different names.
And I
for
use
it.
these on these jigs without the skirts on them. And if you notice, when you turn this thing over, the tails will hang down one way. When you turn it the other way, they almost stand up. That's where you want your hook coming out. You want your hook coming out that side. That side.
Kind of like a dang, I'm just falling all over my words today. Kind of like a not a beaver.
I use that
Brush hog.
in clear water. I'll use this 221, or I'll use green pumpkin with green and purple flake.
Oh, that's pretty.
And I think that's a 304. It's a good color for Berryessa too. If the water's real dirty, white. I've done real well on this. Caught a lot of fish with this thing. Usually the fish are in 3 to 12 inches of water. They'll be right up on the shore. If that water is real muddy, they'll be right up on the shore. You pitch it up on the shore, you drag it into the water. Sometimes you can see that water swirl when they're picking it up.
With that bright of a bait?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Black or white?
I think a lot of people are scared to throw a white just because it's.
No, when that water.
But I mean, you're
stained,
throwing a white spinnerbait, a white chatterbait, a white crankbait. Why wouldn't you eat a white jig?
White jig. White jig.
Yeah, they're not scared of white.
Do you know anything about 6 cent swim jigs?
You know what? I've got. No, I don't. I don't think I've got. I haven't purchased any of those.
Next Level
yet.
Fit Angler is saying that they're fire.
They're fire.
They're fire. They're good.
I picked these up.
So you gotta try them.
These are in a tube, and these are made by.
Heck if I know.
Strike Zone Lures. Strike Zone Lures. And I really like these because let's get the baby out. When you set it down, when it's on the bottom, I don't know if you can see that, but
And it's got an O'Shaughnessy hook too.
it's standing almost straight up.
It's got the good hook.
It's got a good hook.
Like you can see it right there.
Yep.
Without me holding it.
And these are called the Perfect Jig.
Well, they definitely stand up.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I've got, like I said, I got the Booyahs are my favorite without a skirt. Next with the skirts are those, but shoot, those were, I think they still got the price on them. They were pretty expensive. I bought a whole bunch of them when I found them. And they come in multiple colors.
$4.
They're not expensive anymore.
Yeah.
You've had them for a minute.
Yeah. They were $4. I probably bought these 10 years ago.
Do you know anything about persuaders?
Persuader baits. Is Persuader still around?
I think they are. But I
think
don't
I'll
know.
pick
I don't
back
know if
up.
I don't know if they're still making jigs. Not too much about Persuader. Like I said, I got into making my own jigs, and then slowly got into buying these.
You pour your own, where you start with the hook?
I buy the jigs already poured, and I just color code them myself, powder coat them myself.
What are your? So I noticed you got a couple of brands here. Are these are the ones that you purchased without or with skirts?
Yeah,
and all
now
that?
the ones with skirts are my all-time favorite was the Revenges, but unfortunately these were discontinued in 2021. Revenge Baits made these football heads. 3/8 ounce is my favorite. Unfortunately, the gentleman that made them passed, and they're no longer being made. Right now, I buy a lot of dirty jigs. These are great. The Alabama Craw's great with the green pumpkin trailer. They make a Super Matte Brown, which is great with the 221.
So I'm noticing a lot of these are like natural tones, minus the white, obviously.
Yes,
but pretty much you're just throwing natural
in
tones.
clear water, I'm going with the colored, the little duller glitter in them. With the skirted jigs, I'm just throwing a twin tail grub.
No skirt.
No spider. Yeah.
No mop to the
No
top.
mop to the top with the jigs that have the skirt.
That one's got a missing leg.
That's a good bait. That's a good bait. One of the things I did find, and the reason I don't go with in clear water is that as these baits get older, especially this 221 as it fades, I catch more fish on it. That's why I keep this one without the broken tail, the part of the appendage missing. It still catches fish. I don't.
Because those are Yamamoto's, though, can't you like grab them and scratch them.
Yeah, drag your nails across them occasionally as you're fishing it, and then that'll release more salt. That'll release more
it'll
salt.
dull that.
Yeah.
It'll dull that color too.
And one of the things with jig fishing is retie quite often,
Yes.
especially if you're fishing rocky banks and you're feeling that thing get hung up. It takes a lot of patience to fish one of these. And when you're getting as I'm dragging that jig along and I feel it stop, a lot of times I could tell if it's wood or if it's rock. And instead of pulling into it, I'll just kind of take the rod to it and pop it and get it over that, and then keep dragging it. And a lot of times when you pop it, it don't come down. The line just stays slack. That means the fish has picked it up. Reel down, load up on it, and set the hook.
Paul said straight braid when you're jig fishing,
Nope.
which you talked
Nope.
about a little earlier.
Yeah, I have.
Straight
I've
fluoro.
experimented with jigs, with braid, a lot of things, but my jig fishing, I strictly do it with 100% fluorocarbon. 12 to 15 pound test is basically what I use. Unless the water is really clear, then I'll downsize that, maybe go to 10. I have gone to 8, but that was an extreme situation.
Yeah. Most of the time, you don't need to go lower than 10.
Yeah, I just have
Or even lower than 12.
I use braid for frogging and punching. My spinning rods, all my spinning rods are rigged up for drop shots.
Yeah,
So,
that's the best way to go.
I put a 20-foot fluorocarbon leader on it, and that's about the only time I use braid. So a lot of people that are getting into bass fishing, I recommend they use braid with a
leader,
leader,
like a shock leader.
Yeah, yeah.
Why would you say that?
Well, because they're going to feel it a little bit better, and it doesn't backlash and make a mess as bad as
Fluorocarbon or
fluorocarbon or monofilament. And when I got into jig fishing, I was throwing monofilament. And when I went to fluorocarbon,
That's why you hit them a couple of times.
I noticed a direct improvement in the sensitivity. So I can imagine. I know with braid you have even more sensitivity, but I just haven't made that jump yet into braid for jigs. I like the fluorocarbon. I like the
what
fluorocarbon.
type? So if you are going to go like braid to a leader, what kind of knot are you going to tie?
O'Berty, improved O'Berty knot. I like that one. That's all I tie now. If I'm tying braid to fluorocarbon or monofilament, is the O'Berty knot. I do a lot of rod repair. I build rods. I see a lot of rods come in missing the inserts,
Yes.
and that is from that knot on the braid to fluorocarbon passing through your guides repeatedly.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Or reeling up too far.
Yeah.
I knocked one out the other day.
What I would suggest, if you're going to do that, make sure you've got good guides.
Yeah.
Those silicone carbide, Fuji guides, can't go wrong there. I like the Alkanites, but I don't think they make them anymore. But those were definitely good guides. The lower end guides is where I'm seeing the inserts come out. Even on some of the higher end rods, I'm seeing them come in with the inserts missing because people throwing braid to fluorocarbon and that knot's passing through just repeatedly passing through those guides, whacking those guides.
Yeah,
No.
I typically just break the whole thing off, not just the inserts.
Yeah. So
That's
you're
why-
talking about
stepping on it or
the leader
whatever.
knot for jig fishing. What knot do you tie? Palomar knot.
Palomar knot. That's
No matter what.
no matter what. That's what I tie.
You go Palomar knot for everything? you
Pretty
tie,
much everything that
Everything
I tie
but
now.
punching?
Yes, everything except for punching. I tie Palomar. I like it. It's good, a good strong knot, and to me, it's simple, real simple.
Quick, easy, and strong.
Yeah, we got this can of Real Magic out here. I found that if you, especially monofilament or fluorocarbon, hit your reels with this, the line, it'll pass through the guides easier and makes that line a lot limper. If you're fishing during the winter, it really helps keep that ice from forming in the guides.
Wow.
So
Now, does it help, like, say, like Clear Lake when it's algae?
Well, what I do if I'm fishing Clear Lake for a couple of days, I'll get done fishing. I'll take hit Q-tips, hit a Q-tip with that Real Magic, and I'll go through and clean my guides. It's not going to keep. I mean, you can spray your guides down, your rod down with that, but that algae is going to build up in the guides, no matter what. So if you want to keep your casting distance up the next day, or even throughout the day, especially when it gets real thick, when you get that 2 or 3 inches of it floating on the surface, Q-tip, spray some on a Q-tip, and then run it through your guides. It'll clean them right up.
Champ Kine, what's going on, Bucky? He said he loves the new studio. Hasn't been on in a minute. Whammy.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Whammy. And then Next Level Angling says he uses a double San Diego jam knot for his jig.
Well, it sounds too complicated to me. Just the double.
Just the double?
I've never tied that knot.
Now, I will tell you, we had Billy Hines come and talk at one of our club meetings, right? Mm-hmm. And he was talking about the knot that he ties for his jig.
Triple tag knot, which is also, I've heard a pro talking about it recently. He does not call it triple tag. He calls it something else, but it's the same knot.
It's the same knot where you have
it's got all those tag ins.
It's got 3 tag lines.
Yeah.
But it's double line around the eye of your hook.
The eye of your hook, yeah. I can
Still
see
only
that.
got one line coming out of it.
But if you're gonna use a Palomar, just retie every, I don't know. You'll know. You get hung up quite a bit. Run your finger up that line. If you feel any abrasion on that line, and I'm talking, sometimes you got to run your hand up, your fingers up 10 feet of that line, because if you're fishing Clear Lake and you're fishing a ridge or a hump, your bait's over that and you're dragging it. Yeah, sometimes you'll be that far from the scraped up end of it. So
that's how my leaders get shorter.
Yep.
Yeah, the triple tag knot eats a lot of line each time you're tying it.
Yeah.
He said that's the strongest knot for fluoro.
Yeah. I've seen demonstrations of people tying it, but too complicated for me.
You like simple.
I like simple. And that Palomar is a great knot for me.
All right. So like I'm looking at the table. We got these ones. We got skirted football jigs. We haven't even gotten into that box.
No, that was good. Another plain old box.
Now, how fast does your boat go with all these jigs in it?
Well, you see, that's why you bought a new motor. It goes a lot faster now.
Well, with the old motor, I could do 78, but as I started adding tackle, I started seeing that, and after 22 years, that motor finally gave out. It was just getting weaker. So I put a new 4-stroke 250 on it, Mercury. Love that engine. I'm getting low 70s. If I were to take everything out of my boat,
you should be flying in that boat.
Yeah, well, I went to a new trolling motor, got the Ghost. That was probably twice as heavy as my 747 Motor Guide.
But you hate the Ghost?
No, I love the Ghost.
Oh, okay.
I love the Ghost.
Does the spot lock help and or improved your jig fishing?
Oh, I can put it on spot lock and not worry about anything.
So it's improved it.
Oh, I got waves breaking over the bow. It stays locked on. And I noticed with that Ghost, right away, I could fish 2, maybe 3 days on one charge.
Yeah.
And I'm running 24 volt. Yeah. I didn't have room for a third battery for my trolling motor, so I just kept it 24. So, and I'm going to add another. Since I went to that Mercury 4-stroke, I got rid of my oil reservoir tank, and I'm just going to put another battery there, but that's going to be dedicated for my grass.
Yep, dedicated power.
I'm going to still stay at 24. I got plenty of power with that Cobra, so no problems with that.
Then you got a brand new carpet kit on it.
My good buddy carpet in my boat really makes it look nice. Now I
doesn't like brand new again.
Yeah, I got to put the recessed foot pedal in there now, because now I'm thinking, I probably should have done that when I did the carpet, but and I know you
still can.
I know you talk.
The Captain Morgan step up.
Yeah, I just realized that Captain Morgan position is getting old. Getting old.
Yeah. I definitely couldn't go back. I was like that for years with the old Stratos, and ever since I started running it or any of the boats without them, I'm like, I couldn't go back. Like you just all your weight's on
Yeah.
1 foot the whole time.
And I'm fishing with other people, and I get up in front of their boat, and I go, man, this is nice. You know, this is actually nice. I'm like, I'm not, and I lose my balance a lot more when I've got that foot elevated and
Yeah.
working that trolling motor. But yeah, it'll come.
So you got multiple colors in here. You have reds, purples. This is a black.
Yeah, sure. Got
Yeah.
reds, purples. I see all of them.
You see all of them, James?
My favorite color is brown with purple.
No matter
A
what.
lot of these are the dirty jigs. I'm sorry, dirty jigs.
You got
Matt
basket
Allen
over here,
special.
too.
Brown with purple strands, and these are silicone, and they work real good. When the water gets really cold, I go to this live rubber. It's round, and in the
Looks like it's almost like a finer.
it is
round,
It's
too.
real fun, and they fluff out. They poof out when you're in the water. So when the water gets real cold, I like these. The silicone kind of stays matted and doesn't react as well when you move it as the live rubber does. So
In the
cold water,
cold water, that is.
I like the live rubber. Yeah.
Yeah, it gives it a little more body and a little more action with that colder
And then, like I
water.
said, this is my favorite color. Clear Lake in the Delta is this Delta Craw color. It's got some orange in it, brown, and once in a while, a little red.
I'll show that one again for anybody who tagged in later.
Champ Kind says, do bail reels tangle more than button reels?
Spinning reels versus bait casters.
Oh,
Depends on if you're running braid or not.
yeah, I've fished jigs on a spinning rod when I injured one of my arms, and it worked for me. It worked for me.
Now, some of these, like the real small dirty jig that Tackle Bassin puts out,
Mhm.
they're small enough to throw them on a.
I still throw them on a
Spinning
bait
reel.
caster. I still
Yeah.
throw them on a bait caster.
But if you're throwing like a 3/8, you could easily.
I've got some medium action 7-foot casting rods with 8-pound tests on there. I can fling those things a long ways.
So when
They
you're
work just fine for me. But spinning rods, a lot of people I know that throw the lighter jigs do use spinning rods, and they do have it going to braid. The problem I have with spinning rods is that if you're not using braid, you're going to end up with twist. No matter what you're throwing, you're going to end up with line twist.
Especially if you reel through the drag.
Yeah, if you're reeling through the drag, you're going to end up with line twist. So I kind of stay away from the spinning rods. Like I said, unless I'm
so if you're
drop shotting.
so would you rather drop shot or jig?
Oh, jig.
So you'd leave the drop shot rod in the boat.
If I had a choice, I would catch all my fish on a jig. I love that thump you get when they pick up that bait. And one of the things I notice is that when you get that thump and the line goes slack, that means that fish swam towards you.
Yeah.
Reel down, point your rod at that fish, reel down till you feel the weight, and then lay into it, set the hook. If you feel that thump and he pulls, there's more fish down there. There's more fish down there. He went in there and got that bait from somebody else. So throw back in there. And I fish a jig probably a little different than most people. I get my boat right up on the bank. I fish points or I fish rock piles. If I'm fishing a rock pile, I'll cast up to it. I'll cast to the side of it. I don't like casting over it because now your line's going over that rock pile, and if you hook a fish and he's pulling down, you can cut your line off. If I'm fishing a point, I will roll up from the side, and I will get right on that point, put it on spot lock. I might be in 4 or 5 feet of water, as long as my motor's not banging on the bottom, and then I'll fan cast to deep water with my jig until I find the fish.
And then just slow crawl it back up.
And then what I do is I got the rod at 3 o'clock, and I'm just turning that reel, just creeping it.
So you're not even pumping or anything. You're just slow reeling.
No, because I found out if you're pumping it, and then you take that, bring that rod back, and that fish picks it up. You don't know till you start reeling, you start moving it again. All of a sudden there's weight there, and he spits it. So I got to the point where I just cranked that reel. Now,
So do you use a lower gear reel?
well, I meant to mention that one earlier when I had the rod up here. Is that I have two different rods that are two different reels I use. Mostly it's a 7-to-1 ratio because I want that good fast line pickup. But you got to be conscious of the fact that that's a faster reel, so you have to slow a little bit down. That's why I say it takes a lot of patience. You have to slow down more with a high speed reel. If I'm fishing Clear Lake, and I have I think it's a Corrado, older Corrado that is a 5-to-1, and that's a winch.
Yeah.
That's a winch. Because usually Clear Lake, I'm fishing fairly shallow, 15 to 20 feet. I just again slow that reel down, point that rod at 3 o'clock, and wait for that thump. And like I said, when I feel that jig catch something, I don't pull into it. I just kind of give it a little slack and I pop it. And 9 times out of 10, it'll come off of that. If it don't, then I'm doing all kinds of things, snapping the line.
Getting in tune with that bait when it's starting to get hung up and giving it
that's
that little
the key.
pop before
That's
it's
the key.
hung is the world of difference.
And that's where a lot of people get frustrated with jig fishing, is that they don't get in tune with that, feeling that bait crawling and then catching something and then popping it. They'll lean into it or try to pull it, and all they're doing is they're just burying that hook or that head further into the crevice. So
yes, you can do that with drop shot, and Ned rig,
and well, especially the Ned rig, because that bait just wants to lay over. With the jig, it's gonna pretty much stay flat. It's going to stay flat unless it rubs up against something, and then it's going to lay over. But other than that, if it's flat, it's going to stay flat.
One of my favorite places to throw jigs is Orville.
Oh yes, Orville is especially if you want to get used to the jig bite. Orville is really great because there's so many fish. They're small, but so many fish and so many bites. You can really get tuned in to throwing a jig. And like anybody that's going to get into jig fishing, go buy these plain jigs, either powder coated or not. Buy them in
round end.
Yeah, and then just buy yourself some twin tail grubs and go to town on them. Get used to that feel. Once you get into it, then you can start spending money on these fancy ones, the skirted ones. That's what I do. I save those for tournaments. I use these cheap ones to practice with.
So I've heard before also is if you're getting into jig fishing, if you ain't losing 10 to 20 jigs a day, you're not doing it.
Yeah, if you're not, you're going to lose jigs. There's no. That's the reason I quit using the high end jigs for practice. You end up losing too many. And you got to have patience. Got to have patience fishing a jig.
Paul asked, "Have you ever experienced hair jigs?"
Yes. Yeah.
And
Cold water.
Cold water,
They're great. They're great.
Fish on suspended.
Yeah. The thing about the hair jigs, sometimes those hooks just aren't strong enough. A lot of times they put those on the fine wire hooks.
Mm-hmm.
So
the little softer rod.
Yeah, those are. I usually use those for spots and smallmouth.
Champ Kind says most of his jig experience has been hair jigs, and he also said whammy. Yeah. So Champ Kind is a character on Anchorman, and he's always going whammy. He's a buddy.
Hey, I wanted to shout out to my nephew Chris. Hey.
Tom's.
You got these bass patrols here. When do you use these? When do you throw these?
Most of these are the what I call these, the living rubber. These are Bass Patrol. I think these were designed in Japan. Tackle Warehouse has them. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I could be.
You're willing to.
Yeah, but when I find a jig that I like, I usually buy a bulk, a bag of them, and because you're going to go through them. I like 3/8 ounce, but this live rubber, I call it live rubber. It's round and it just flares out mostly in cold water. When that water gets into the below 50 degrees, they seem to work real well. Spots and smallmouth.
And again, looking through all these colors, they're all neutral, natural colors like that.
Oh yeah, I meant to mention that.
I mean, it kind of, if I were to break pretty much everything you throw down, it's breaking to be in like 4 colors and different slight variations of those 4 colors.
And then we get to when the water gets cloudy. Sometimes in winter that water will cloud up, heavy rain. Then I'll go to a bait that's got this one's got I think it's watermelon with bright blue flake.
Yeah.
Definitely bright. Got some pop to it.
Yes, it definitely does.
I have another one that's it's lighter color, but it's got more blue and green flake in it. But that seems to be the ticket when the water gets gets that cloudy cover where your visibility goes down to about 1 foot, 2 feet.
That pop just helps.
Yes.
Hey, look at
Yeah. They can track it on the bottom and also scent. I usually use smelly jelly, the orange colored smelly jelly. That's my favorite. I think it's called crawdad. I smear that on the body and the legs, and you take that smell home with you, but I don't care how much you
Your
want.
wife,
Don't get it on the carpet, huh?
Yeah, don't get it on the carpet. Trailers. Now, that's one thing that I've experimented with quite a bit. 5-inch Cinco. I use that on a football head.
And you're wigging it like Texas style, basically. Like
Yeah,
just the whole thing sticking out.
Yeah, I just put it on the jig head and skirted or non-skirted makes no difference. I'll put these on. I've even thrown a 10-inch worm, a clear lake on a football head. High-tech swim baits, especially on these booyah jigs or the ones with the O'Shaughnessy hook on them where they stand up. So you're pulling this thing along the bottom, and that little paddle tail Kitech is just
back up there kicking.
Yeah,
off
kicking.
the ground.
Yeah. They can't resist
Have
that.
you ever played with swing heads at all?
Yes.
Because I will throw a Kitech on a swing head from time to time.
I don't think I brought any swing heads with me. No, we didn't. But even the bigger easy shiners, yeah, I put those on a football head. Nail heads, Frenzy nail heads, really good jig. They stand up.
What are you going to throw on that?
Now, on that, I'll put on a 4 or 6 inch robo worm and throw that. And the one thing I learned with that, and a pro told me, is that once you get that line tight, you can feel it. Just kind of pulse your rod tip, and that
Just rock it.
Shake it.
and it all of a sudden you just feel that thump, and they picked it up. Yeah.
So you can get action without having to actually move
Yeah.
it.
And then shaky heads.
it's an interesting shaky head.
Yeah, the round balled ones. Yeah,
With the little offset.
that's to keep your worm on. Yeah. Just go through the head, the end, the tip of it, and I don't remember who made those, but I have a bunch of them. And then I have the ones with the screw heads.
Now, is there a specific screw head that you use over the
No,
rest of them?
I
noticed
just
this one's a little smaller. I do know that some of the screw heads that I'll run across,
Yeah.
like I feel like the screw head almost goes so far to the tip, like there's no bite for that.
yeah. These are
This one's got a really good bite.
oh these I bought these in bulk probably 15 years ago, and I've only got a few left now. I'm gonna have to buy some more, but they had that smaller head on there. The problem was that they would pull out a little bit easier. So
It needs a little bit more
Yeah.
bite.
The the frenzy nail's got that hook on there. Once you push that on there, it ain't coming off. I wanted to talk about a file. When I'm fishing a tournament, and I've been fishing, I've been getting hung up in rocks and getting it loose. I'll take this file. Let me use this one, and I'll just run that hook. Do we have another one without a hook in it? No. I'll just run that tip of that just like that, and that will put an edge on it. Then I just drag it across the top of my thumb
Until it sticks.
if you show that to them, that file,
doing it
I don't know where I got that file from.
He's putting it like this and then just pushing it up.
Yeah.
The file is what he's doing until it
And that
sharpens.
that little file, there's got a little groove in it,
Oh yeah,
and
that'll bite you.
I sharpen my hook. I'll feel it, drag it across my nail. If it don't grab right away, you need to sharpen it, put a little edge on it, or change out the hook.
Tom Smith says he gets his boat as close to the bank as possible and casts parallel jigs to 10 to 20 feet.
Yep. Depending on if the fish are, say you're graphing fish at 10, 15, 20 feet, and you don't have a point, I'll get that boat over that depth and just cast parallel to the bank and just work it back. But like I said, keep that rod tip at 3 o'clock. And I use, like I said, I got a lot more control just creeping it with the reel. Like I said, the 7-to-1, you got to be, or 8-to-1 ratio reels. You got to really be careful not to crank it too fast. And when new people, you say you're taking kids out and you're showing them how to fish a jig, put a paddle tail on, right? Because if they get impatient and they start winding it too fast,
then they're just swimming a swim
they're
bait.
actually basically swimming that bait on the bottom.
Yeah.
And they'll get bit that way.
Pretty smart.
Yeah.
Might actually get me to throw the jig a little more often.
Yeah. Another thing that I've been fishing a lot more lately is a jig rig. And I make mine using a, what are these called?
Quick snap.
Fast lock snaps. They're called fast lock snaps. I can tie the fast lock snap on here, and then I can add my weight, and it looks like a drop shot weight, but instead of a little wire vise for the line, it's got a
loop.
A loop. So you put it on there, and then I put my hook on. That way I can change my weight and my hook very quickly. But then again, like I said,
So you can see
retie often. Retie often.
the snap that's on there. So then if you just open this snap up, now I can change my hook size just like that, and I can change my weight size just like that. So that's what he's saying. I haven't seen this before, but it's
that's
a really
my
good
invention.
idea.
That's called the Shirley rig.
Patent pending.
That's the Shirley rig. Yeah.
Patent pending.
Yeah. And this, me and Bernie were fishing that November tournament on Clear Lake, and I was throwing a 5-inch Cinco that I dipped in this red dye, garlic flavored, and they were tearing it up, and then they quit biting it. So I took off the hook and the bait, and I put on a 5/0 hook, wide gap hook, and I went to a Beaver 520 in Bloody Mary color, and they started biting again. And
So just being able to change.
being able to change, adapt, and change. Now you can do the same thing with this jig rig as a regular jig and throw Kitech on it or a little swim bait and just drag it on the bottom. One of the things I found with the jig rig is I don't get hung up. If it's real rocky, I'm getting hung up less with this than a football head.
And when you do get hung up, it's easier to pop out.
Yep.
I think a lot of it is like the body of the bait gets stuck, not necessarily the weight as much, and it'll pop. I mean, every once in a while you will lose one though.
Yeah.
It'll definitely find a crevice, especially
Yeah.
Clear Lake and those lava rocks.
When do you go from a jig to a hula grub?
Well, the jig I use if I'm using something without a weed guard or a skirt, I'm using a hula grub. If I'm using a skirted jig, right, then I'm going to put on a where those things go? Right
Just
here.
a regular,
Just
a
yeah.
regular double tail.
Just a regular double tail.
But is that? Do you use like? Is it like a?
No hula grub, just a double-tailed grub from Yamamoto, and these are 5-inch. So
Is it like a? Do you use the hula grub in springtime versus winter, or is there like certain times of the year that you use a hula more?
I use that hula grub year-round.
So they're pretty much interchangeable with each other.
Yeah, like I said, if I'm fishing a tournament where I want to use skirted jigs, then I'm using the
twin tail.
twin tail grub. But if I'm out pre-fishing and I'm using old football heads that the paint's all worn off them or the powder coat's all worn off them, then I'm using and I don't have a skirt, then I'm using the hula grub, like I said.
So you're kind of almost using the hula grub as a cost savings in some ways.
Well, I'm using the jigs that I'm buying in bulk and powder coating myself as a cost cutting factor in pre-fishing.
And then when it comes down to the actual, when you want that good hook, when you want that, that's when
I go to the skirted jig, or a jig with the weed guard. And some of these, when you buy these jigs in bulk, sometimes they'll come with a hole like these. I don't know if you have to show them this, but you can actually put your own skirt on there. And you can buy the skirts in bulk also. I get them from
or the weed guard.
Or the weed guard. I mean, you put you just glue it in there with some super glue, and it ain't coming out of there. Got a little hole already in there. Before they came with the hole, I used to drill them out. After I powder coat them, I would drill them out, and then put my weed guard in there.
Dave says, "What's happening?" And then Tom Smith asks if you know Jeff Gervais.
Gervais?
That sounds familiar.
Gervais?
He's a jig fisherman in the valley.
Oh, you know what? I may have fished with him once.
Like
That name's-
pro-am kind of thing?
Yeah, that name sounds real familiar.
And then 5 miles ahead says hi.
Hey,
Tap.
who's 5 miles ahead?
Oh. Somebody in the YouTube
Somebody-
There you go.
somebody very important because
in the
they're
YouTube
watching.
world, yeah. Good.
We don't know who half the people who are on here.
And for that jig rig, I started buying these casting sinkers.
from Walmart.
Walmart.
Yeah, I was gonna say those say Ozark Trail on it, so those are
We'll show
Walmart.
that one there.
Those are
You can
Walmart.
buy those in
See,
bulk.
champ, you could buy stuff at Walmart and be just fine.
Yep.
Yeah, you could jig rig wise, you could buy everything at Walmart.
Yeah.
Heck, my favorite Cinco hook is at Walmart.
Get these fast lock snaps, and these fast lock snaps, they're rated up to, I think these are rated up to 30 pounds. The smaller ones are rated up to 20 pounds. Those I use these a lot. I use these for all my crankbaits,
Yeah.
rip baits, jerk baits.
Yeah, when you first told me you were using those snaps, I was thinking, man, I don't know. And then I thought, well, I put them on all my crankbaits because I use a snap on all my hard baits. And I'm like, if I can trust it on a hard bait through the toolies in the back of a pocket, why wouldn't I be able to trust it on a jig rig?
Yep, no, they work great. They work great.
All right, how about jig fishing in the Delta?
That's mostly pitching. Now, if you're going to fish the Delta, there are rock piles out there. Frank's Track, it's got a few rock piles out there. I know of a few. I couldn't describe how to get to them because
It's literally in the middle.
yeah, no, they're most of the rock piles I know of are close to openings that have been blown open, and that's how the Frank's Track got flooded. There are rock piles out there. I don't know how they got there, but there's concrete out there that's piled up in places.
Yeah, one of my best days was throwing skirted grub, and it was one of the blow openings, and it was just I literally didn't have spot lock back then. I had the trolling motor shoved into the tulies, and then you like turn it sideways, and then it kind of clips into the tulies, and fishing off the back deck, bouncing on rock.
Yeah, and those sections of Frank's trap where it's blown out and it's real wide, we'll get off on the side of that thing and cast, because the tulies way in right here, right? But that old wall that came in is back in there. So we'll get right on the edge of the tulies. Sometimes I'll tie off the bow to a clump of tulies, and we'll throw up into that opening and drag it out. And it'll stair step down, or it'll come and then it'll just fall. And that's usually when you get your bites, is when it falls. Color for that is just like Clear Lake, this red and orange and brown, or orange and brown color with the Bloody Mary. That's my best color, my favorite color for Clear Lake and the Delta. And I can also pitch these. These have got a different head. They're called a football head, but they're a different. And these are the Revenge. Can't get them no more, so I got a few left. But this is just almost like a pitching jig. Almost like a pitching jig. And
it's kind of like a hybrid.
Yeah, it's a hybrid football pitching head type of head, and it seems to work real well. Even the football heads will work in the Delta.
Big John says, James, stay away from his Cinco hooks. And then
John and I buy the same single hooks. I actually just told him which Walmart to go to that has a better stock of them consistently.
Tom Smith asks, wait, what hook are we talking about?
For which one?
For your Cinco hook.
Oh, the Cinco hook is actually an Eagle Claw cheap. I think they call it like bait holder or something like that. It's a cheap
For wacky rigging?
Yeah, for wacky rigging.
Okay.
And it's got a wire thing to it. If I knew where they were offhand, I'd go grab them. It's a really cheap hook, but you can literally, I don't care where you are on the Delta, I can hook it to the back and just slow reel it, and it'll follow the line out, ping ponging off all the tulies, and it doesn't get stuck. Now, if you yank it, it'll get stuck.
Is it almost like a circle hook?
No.
It's almost like just a regular worm hook.
It looks
It's
like
round bend.
that hook, but no weight and just a wire like this on it.
It's literally a cheap Eagle Claw hook.
So it's got a wire guard on it.
It's got a wire guard just like that.
These are actually, you know what I used to use before I found these wire ones? Remember those the elastic bands that were on kids' braces?
Yeah. And then put that to the
My kids had braces, and I found one of the, because they're everywhere. The kids lose those rubber bands for the brace all the time. I stuck it through the eye of this thing and pulled it back through, and then I hook it on the barb, and that worked great. Yeah, I did that for the longest time. They were white, or in my daughter in case they were pink, but that's all right. It worked. Then I found these ones with the wire, and I started buying these, and they work real good too. Oh, one thing with jig hooks, if you bend that hook out, if you're fishing a tournament, get on the jig. Don't rely on straightening that hook back out. Just bite on the jig. If you're fun fishing, you can bend it back into shape and use it. But if you're fishing a tournament, just get a new jig.
Is that for the fact that it'll bend back out, or just breakage?
Once you bend that hook out, it's going to bend out easier every time, and then eventually it'll just break.
Yeah,
so I've bent hooks 3-4 times, and then all of a sudden I bring it back in. I didn't even feel it hang up on anything, and the hook's gone. Yeah.
What about Arky jigs?
Arky, you're like
with living rubber.
That would be your pitching box.
That would be my pitching box here, and there's one right there. Arky heads are good for fishing cover. They're good for fishing cover. I used to use it
like you're saying, like wood, grass.
I used to swim these too before they had swim jigs, and I used to put on a little paddle tail, or not a paddle tail, a single tail grub, and swim those through the tulies and in the grass. But Arky, I like Arky heads. They come through the Delta grass and tulies really good. I don't use them as much as I used to. They came out with swim jigs, and most of those got Arky heads on them. with
Yeah.
pointed heads on them. One thing that I wanted to mention, I made a video myself. I should probably give it to you so you can post it, but I made a video on how to make chatterbaits out of football head jigs or any jig.
Really?
You just have to have a line tie that's perpendicular. This was in line with the jig. You have to have one that's perpendicular. You put a split ring on it. You put a split ring on the blade, and then you just put your
Clamp on it?
you put your fast lock snap on the blade. Chatterbait.
I mean, that's probably how it got started.
Yeah. And I've been experimenting with different size blades too. So putting bigger blades on.
They've been working?
Yep.
That's what I'm talking
Especially when the water's real murky.
Put a bigger blade on it.
I made some with bigger blade. And I just use football heads. But you got to find the ones that've got a perpendicular line tie. None of these do. All these are in line. But here, you could do it with this. This one's got a perpendicular hook, but it's a
Screw lock.
shaky head. Screw lock. And that'll work. They just, don't have much weight to it. Don't have much weight to it. Shoot. What else? You know what? Did we talk about the tungstens?
Yeah.
We did.
A little bit. You said a little bit about them. I don't think you
Yeah,
dug into
I
them.
started experiment with these tungsten. Now these are 3/8 ounce, and these are 1/2 ounce, and it's got a real small head on it.
Yeah, it's a 3/8 ounce hot size, but
No, it's
a 1/2 ounce
it's
weight.
smaller than that.
Yeah,
This is a 1/2 ounce, and it's got a smaller head than a 3/8 ounce. And
this is a 1/2 ounce too, right?
that's a 3/8.
It's 3/8. Is this 1/2 ounce?
This is 3/8 right here. That's a 3/8.
This is probably a 1/2 ounce.
No, that's 3/8 also.
I'm gonna try and show a comparison.
Yeah, I don't think I have. Oh, here we go.
This is
Here's a 1/2 ounce.
Yes, you can say these are the same weights, but you can see the size difference between the heads, and that's just because it's tungsten. It's that
And
more dense
I think
material.
these things were like $5 a piece. But if I'm fishing Shasta or even Berryessa, but I'm fishing deep when the water's colder or in the heat of the summer when those fish are deep, I'll go to this tungsten jig with a twin tail grub because it's already got a skirt on it, and I'll fish this. Just get parallel with the depth I want, cast it out there, give it plenty of slack, let it sink, and then just work this back. But I did realize that these things, they get hung up, I think, more than a regular football head. And I think it's because of the size, because they're so small.
Smaller head.
They sneak into every little crevice, and they get hung up.
Tom says Kitech makes a killer tungsten football.
Yes.
Yeah,
that little
jig.
Kitech jig is money.
I think these are Angler's King.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a good hook in it and a good body. It's nice, small, compact profile. I think, a lot of people knew about it, but Blanchard in the YouTube world, Blanchard made that
Oh, he's a
a
kayaker,
lot
right?
of kayaker. He made that a lot more prominent to people picking that up.
Yeah.
But that bait was getting used.
That one's a
Before that.
hard one. The brown and purple is hard to find in that Kitech.
Yeah, look
Especially
at
this
this,
time of
brown
year.
and purple.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
PB&J.
Yep.
Good
Tournament. I only use these for tournaments. So,
Yeah.
because I think these
They're
were
not
like $5 a pop.
They're not cheap.
Expensive. They're expensive.
You got it pretty much wrapped up.
I don't have anything else. I've got some Paradise Tackle jigs. These were really good jigs. Unfortunately, they're no longer made. Pepper jigs. I don't know if we talked about pepper jigs. You can still get pepper jigs. These are real good.
I've seen them before. I don't know if I have any.
Yeah.
jigs.
They all come with skirts, but they've got a recessed line tie. I don't know if you,
Oh, a little tucked in line tie.
Yeah, a little
I don't
tucked
know if
in.
that'll show up in
it may
camera.
not show up.
This might be the same kind of theory though,
Yeah.
but a tucked in line tie. You can see how it's sucked into the head of the body.
Try to protect the line, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives it a little bit of a little safe zone.
And you can get that in the silicone skirt or the live rubber, the round live rubber.
What reels do you like to throw? Like what brand?
Shimano.
Shimano?
Every reel I own is a Shimano reel.
He's the reason why I was a Shimano guy before I became a Luz guy.
I think
It probably is made by Shimano. But it was the generation of Cerados that was made in whatever it was, Taiwan or whatever it was, that I bought 2 reels back to back that didn't even last me 2 months at
Shimano's?
$200. Yeah, it was
Okay.
that bad generation, that blue green or whatever color it was.
There was
And that's what gave the opening for me to switch to Luz.
there was a time when they took the original Japanese made Corrado and changed the color of it and called it a Chrome Arch. Painted it white, called it a Chrome Arch. They made a reel in Malaysia and called it a Corrado. And it was, I don't want to say it was junk, but
It was junk.
That one hurt me.
yeah. So when I buy a reel, I look at the box. Right now I'm buying nothing but Chrome Arches. And I look at the box and make sure that reel's made in Japan.
Yeah.
But all I buy is Shimano reels. And I have to look at the box and make sure it's made in Japan. Otherwise, I don't buy it. And like I said, the only reels I'm buying right now are the Chrome Arches.
Swim School says maybe Indonesia. I can't remember where. It might be Indonesia. I remember that they were making it in one spot and then they moved it and then
They were making it.
change.
They made it in Japan, and then they started making the Corrados in Malaysia or Indonesia, and that's where I think the quality went downhill.
And that was the last Shimano I bought.
Yeah.
I bought 2 of them.
But if Shimano wants to sponsor me,
I still use
Shimano's.
one of those junk ones is actually my punch reel. I still use it, but I definitely have to give it TLC to keep it alive.
Yeah, like dunking it in the water just so it's quiet.
You know,
Dunk it in the wire to shut
I
it
think
up.
one of the best reels they've ever made was the Calcutta, the silver Calcutta. Great reel. Only thing is the spool came with when you took the spool out of it to clean the reel, it had a plastic, I call it a shim. It's shaped like a bearing. So I pulled the pin out, took that shim down, and had bearings. Went to a bearing store and had the same exact bearing. I bought the same exact bearing size, put it in those reels, and I started getting 20, 30 yards further on my cast. Just with that. And the bearings were only like $8 a piece or something like that.
Yeah.
They weren't very much.
Yeah.
But I bought like a dozen of them and changed all my reels over, took that plastic shim out, put that bearing in there. The only thing is it's not a sealed bearing, so it does make a little noise when you cast, but
Just dunk it in the water.
He's got an old reel that screams at you when you cast.
Yes.
that's,
Yes, it's a Shimano too.
yeah, all you gotta do is take it out and oil it.
Yeah, I did.
Well, it's from not oiling it and catching salmon with it.
Yes.
Oh, that'll do it. I've got one of the reasons I quit using braid on my bait casters is I hung up on a rock one time, and when I moved the boat and pulled it, it tweaked the spool. It tweaked the spool, so the reels, unless I get a Calcutta, I can't get spools anymore unless I buy a whole,
Burns the reel.
yeah.
Tom Smith says Shimano SLX, the $100 reel, is the best bang for your buck. I will argue that I would rather go with a Luz.
If
for
you
$100.
found a reel out
so
there that
there's
works for you, stay with it.
The
Stay with
Shimano SLX reel for $100. I have that reel, and it was very, very surprising how good that reel is. Luz has another $100 reel that also was really, really good. They're probably made at the same place. Realistically, there's only a handful of actual reel manufacturers.
Yeah.
So a lot of these reels all come from like 3 different factories, just like rod blanks. Most rod blanks come from the same factories. But yeah, that SLX is a rock solid
Oh,
reel for
did
sure.
we talk about dye?
Yeah.
You touched it a little bit.
I use this Spike It Dip and Glow worm bait, garlic flavored. They love it. They love it. You can get it in. This is a red. I dip the green pumpkin Cinco's in it. It's great. The chartreuse. Another thing you can do with those is dip the tails of the spider grubs in there, or twin tail grubs in there. Just dip the tips in there, especially if the water's cloudy. That really helps.
Just the
And the garlic flavor, it really it turns them on. It turns them on.
Nice.
I think you pretty much covered it all.
I think so.
I'm sure this guy over here is getting hungry. He gets a little hangry at a certain point.
Yeah. Okay. What time is it?
Eight
Oh,
fishing.
shoot. 8:15.
Yeah, it flies by. I'm telling you, it flies
does,
right by.
It does.
One last comment before we get out. Tom Smith, back in the beginning, says, "What do you think about Okeechobee being one on live scope?" So you got a Florida lake where they're using live scope, and they're catching them. He's actually catching them on crankbait. He's looking at the mood of the fish with live scope, but and then he compares it to Delta. I guarantee you there are people on the Delta using live scope and not saying a word about it.
Oh yeah,
It is
sure.
for sure already happening on the Delta. I can punch deep weed mats myself in perspective mode and just know where that weed mat line is. And that's weeds that you cannot see under the water, and I can punch that weed line. So if I'm able to figure that out, there's people out there who are cashing checks or doing better with it.
Structure scan. We used to go down along the hyacinth mats with structure scan, and you could see up under there. And then when you saw a group of fish, we would just mark it, put a waypoint on it, turn back around, and go fish that mat.
Yeah.
So forward-facing sonar just makes it more convenient, so you can aim it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So electronics has been used on the Delta as much as it. People say you don't need it because you really don't need it.
No.
But it is definitely getting used.
Yes. Especially catching striper.
Yeah. Striper is really fun with forward scan.
Yeah.
Especially you get near the bridges and all that. Like you can
Forward
actually
scan
see
and
the
the A-rig.
schools and all that. Yeah. Yeah, that's really fun to do. I think that's pretty much it.
Well, the only thing I didn't really get into a little bit is when I'm fishing for largemouth, I'm usually using a bigger bait, heavier line. Spots and smallmouth, I'm downsizing, especially spots. I'm downsizing. I think they have better eyesight than smallmouth and largemouth, and so the lighter line really comes into play there. Like I said, if I'm fishing a tournament, Highland reservoirs and that water's clear, I'm going to tungsten weight and
Lighter line.
Lighter line. Is the lightest I ever used for jigs is 8-pound test, and that was when we were fishing Future Pro at Clear Lake, and if for some reason that lake you could see down 12 feet easy, which is crystal clear water. And we found it once we went to the 8-pound test. Now we lost a lot of jigs because you hang up with an 8-pound test and it's not coming out. So
you can't get enough pop in.
but we were fishing back then. We were fishing just these bulk jigs that I was making up, and with the spider grub, 221, hammering them. So.
And Tom Smith says MLF is tomorrow, which is Kentucky Lake, I think. They haven't been to Kentucky Lake in a while in tournaments, and we'll see how that plays out.
I can't make that one.
Yeah, that'll be hard to make it by tomorrow.
Yeah.
You can at least watch it live if you wanted to, though. That's pretty much it. Thank you, Irving, for
thank you.
everything. You've definitely
Thank you for having me on.
Definitely taught me some stuff. Just thinking of some ideas that I didn't even think of.
Good. Sharing. It's all about sharing.
Yep.
That's why we're in the Reapers. It's a learning club.
Yep.
So if you want to get out and fish with us and learn how to catch bass and get better at it, How many members we got now?
Well, we
I
just
don't
voted
know.
in 4 new ones yesterday.
And we got 3 more that showed up
Yeah,
to perspectives.
and most everybody's got a boat. So if you
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
have a boat and you want to fish, come join the Reapers.
Yep. You can get out on a boat.
Yeah.
And you don't even,
And there's plenty of retired guys that fish
yeah, I was going to say, you
during the
don't
weekdays if you don't want to fish on the weekends, or if you can only fish on the weekends. There's a lot of guys that are still working that can only fish on the weekends.
yeah, you don't even have to necessarily just come in for just the club tournament. You can meet somebody and
Yep.
Yeah.
fish some club tournaments and fun fish
Yeah.
a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Got another question on there too.
What? Where are you guys going at SAC?
Where are you guys at in Sac? We're like Fairfield, Suisun, Backville area. We're
Yeah,
right in between Berryessa and Delta.
Yeah, so the club's based out of Fairfield, but we have members literally from Nevada.
Yeah.
There's a guy in Turlock, there's Dixon,
Concord. Yeah.
Yeah, Concord, Pleasant Hill, I think, or something like
Yeah.
that. It's pretty spread out. We're not picky about any of
No.
that stuff.
No.
Just there to have a good time.
As long as you're wanting to learn and willing to participate and contribute.
Yep. It's
Come
all
fish
about
with
it's
us.
all about the fun, not
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit of competition level in there, but really it's about the fun. Well, I mean, there is payouts.
Yeah, we're supposed to be a sharing club, but sometimes that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and sometimes
share.
some people share bogus information.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I shared about jig rigs, didn't I, with you?
Yeah.
You did pretty good that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't get anybody to talk about us because we put it on video. So
Yeah.
we get
We
tattletale
just
otherwise.
put it all out there. Yeah, we just put it all out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I'm-
pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, ask them down below. It's getting pretty late. I appreciate every single one of you guys that stuck along this, learned all this information. Again, Irving, thank you.
Oh, thank you guys.
And
Great time.
if you guys have any questions, ask them down below. You can always hit me up on Instagram. And until next time, I hope you get them.
Hope you get them. Get them. Get some.
Ripping lips.
Get some.